Hi, welcome to Deeper Shopping, and we're here live at the ICRS show, which is the International Christian Retail Show. And today, we're very excited. We grabbed Ted Dekker, and he stopped by us to visit, and we're going to be talking about your new book, Saint, and some of these really exciting projects that you have going on right now with movies and film, and watching your literary works being turned into feature films. So thank you so much for being here.
That's
and let's
a
talk
pleasure.
it. So now tell me about Saint. This is this looks like an interesting
Saint. Yeah, Saint is probably my favorite book up to this date, and it comes out this September.
Okay, great.
Everywhere, but it's a story about a man, a relatively ordinary man, who's been kidnapped and taken deep into Europe, and there his identity is completely stripped.
Okay.
So, there's 3 phases of memory loss. The first phase is that you forget where things are, like we all do from time to time.
Okay, do every day.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
The second is that you forget your actual identity. The third, which is the deepest and most profound, and this is true, by the way, I'm not just making this up, is third phase memory loss is when you forget that it's important to know who you are, so there's no incentive to recover your identity.
Right.
And the Chinese proved back in the 50s that you could do this. You could take any man and reduce him to a third phase memory loss within 40 days. This person's taken into Hungary, out in the woods, deep into this camp where he's completely stripped of his identity, and then he's turned into, over many, many months, an incredible assassin. And becomes arguably the best sniper in the world.
Wow.
With the rifles, he's very, very, very good, and he's a completely different person. He doesn't know who he is. And as the story evolves, ultimately he begins to understand who he was.
Okay.
He doesn't want to be that person anymore.
Right.
And he goes through this incredible conflict, and in the midst of this incredible assassination attempt of his that is, would be virtually impossible for anybody but him to pull off. And goes off the reservation, goes on the run. His handlers are after him. It's a very, it's high
Well,
drama.
yeah, you're known for the high impact thriller, supernatural.
Yeah, well, I won't tell you what happens, but really it's a story it's an examination of myself. We're all that person we forget who we are.
Right.
And we're not sure we want to be who we really are.
Right. Life has a way of kind of stripping you down
It really
terms
does.
of, there's certain situations that really, really all of a sudden make you wake up and look in the mirror and go, who am I right now? What is this? What is this all about?
Right.
What am I doing?
So that's what Saint's about. That's what Saint's about.
So it's kind of the metamorphosis of this character, kind of going back and trying to identify with his life. Yeah, don't give any spoilers.
I won't.
Don't give anything away. And this is really exciting. Now I know you guys are doing some really neat promotions with this book. You guys have a street team out there, and it's really, is it more geared towards kind of the young reader, or is this more of a thriller for like young adults?
No, this is definitely an adult thriller. All my novels are adult thrillers, but as it turns out, a lot of young, very voracious readers, even 12, 13-year-olds, love reading up.
Right.
And so they really like my stuff. My stuff's very edgy. It's got a lot of horror in it.
It's very contemporary. Let's talk about that, because I know that here in kind of the Christian retail market and in the Christian market in general, you kind of touch on sort of that cutting edge where some people would find kind of it's very borderline into that horror genre. And how do you go about writing something that could be very graphic and really kind of in your face, but still not losing the fact that it's not just for the graphic sake, that there really is something in the story, a deeper meaning and message in the story. So tapping that balance between spiritual and the horror. How do you work that?
Well, I wouldn't, and actually I think characterizing it as horror is a mischaracterization, because really it's just intense. They're very intense thrillers, but they tend to get dark at times because of this. I believe that exploring the struggle between good and evil requires a full fleshing out of the darkness that surrounds us before I introduce light. So, my stories are about light coming into darkness, which is kind of a very, very redemptive theme.
Absolutely.
Our own history is all about light coming into darkness.
Absolutely.
How can you write a story about light coming into darkness if you don't first have a dark place?
If you don't even acknowledge that there's a dark place.
Well, and it goes beyond acknowledging. See, this is the mistake that a lot of writers make. You have to make the place dark so that when that light comes in, you see it.
Right.
If you have light coming into a gray room, what do you have? The light isn't very brilliant.
Right.
But if you have light coming into a dark room, it dispels the darkness.
Well,
so you have to have that darkness there first.
Right, and I think that's what sets you apart as a fiction writer, is that you are able to pull in these settings. You can set the tone of the book instantly. Someone cracks the spine, they're instantly pulled into a different world, completely pulled into a different world. And that's, to be able to kind of pull the reader in a fiction capacity and set up these elements that are eventually going to play out throughout the remainder of the book. It's kind of, I think, one of the things that is really where your gifting is at. You can set that environment, set the atmosphere, and like you said, it can pull from the dark. But we all sort of came from that dark.
Yeah.
And so it's the spiritual duality that goes on in
and
that.
we struggle with that darkness every
Right.
day. So yeah, for me, it's a real pleasure to be able to write stories about, light dispelling darkness, but it requires that darkness up front. In fact, here is the novel.
Fabulous.
I know it's oops, I dropped the comic book. Here's the novel, Saint.
Great.
Comes out this September, and I'm very excited about,
Highly looking forward to this. I'm going to hold it up right here if we can get the camera shot on that. And now tell me, just in general, because I know that a lot of fans and a lot of fiction readers are always so curious. They always want to know, how did you come up with this idea? Where do you get your plot lines from? How does it just evolve? Is it like downloaded, or is it a long process? Because there's writers, and I'm sure for each project is probably a little bit different, but how, like for Saint, what was sort of the inspiration to kind of pull into a character, like you said, that literally gets broken down to no memory, to nothing?
Well, the process is very long. I usually spend time, really it takes about a year or even longer to really focus and to bring a basic idea into focus, and slowly but surely gels into a story. And but for me, writing is about exploration. It's a discovery, and we all have this incredible need to discover beyond ourselves.
Right.
To understand ourselves by reaching beyond ourselves.
Right.
And that's what escapism is all about. We all have this kind of insatiable need to escape. I like calling my stories, pure escapism with inescapable truth.
Right.
Ultimately, I'm trying to discover some facet of character
That is a
and
great
truth.
way of characterizing it.
And I'm discovering it for myself. I'm doing it for myself, and the readers get to tag along.
Now, are there any characters that sometimes you go back and go, I should have changed that, in retrospect, or do you kind of finish the book and sort of close that chapter and revisit any of that onto the next project? Now, tell me a little bit about. Now, I know you've got several film projects in production right now and in various stages, and tell me a little bit about that, because you've got 3.
Yeah, 3. 3 is a serial killer novel that came out maybe 4 years ago, and it's now in production. Actually, it's in post-production. It will come out next year, 2007. House, actually, I'm leaving in 4 days to go to Poland, where they're beginning the shooting of House. And that'll come out probably in the fall of 2007.
Okay. Now, was that a collaboration with Frank Peretti?
Yes, the book was a collaboration with Frank Peretti.
Okay, great. Oh, that'll be exciting too.
And that's more of it's a haunted house story.
Okay.
That ultimately is very redemptive, but that's more of a straight-up horror. It's going to make a wild, wild movie. I'm really excited to see it.
I was filming in Poland. You get to go to these far off land to do this, but that's awesome. Now, with 3, did you consult on the film? How is that? Because I know, having a film background, a lot of times you have the screenwriter, and they come on, and all of a sudden everybody's taking the script and changing everything, and especially if it's coming from a book and being made into a film, a lot of times it's like, I'm the author, thanks, could you scoot over here a little bit while we figure out what we're doing?
In fact,
so how was your experience with that? I'm just curious.
They ban writers often from set.
Right, exactly. So
it's because there's just too many people, too many opinions.
There's a lot of emotional ties to the book. And when you start seeing the character, not how you visualize that character as you were writing, and I know that can create a little bit of a distress, but how was your experience?
It was very good, actually, because the writer, the screenplay writer, was a big fan to start off with.
Great. Okay.
So he gave me a tremendous amount of input. And secondly, the director and the producer both were very interested in my take on everything. So I was actually there on the set for the whole filming of 3. Great. And there were definitely times when I disagreed with the way things were going in terms of the way a certain character was being played. But you know what? so much gets changed in the editing room anyway. You know, that's another phase, and you hire an editor who comes in and takes, and once again they change it up.
And I would say almost the editing process is probably more crucial to the final.
Yeah, oh, it is definitely.
I mean, that's
and then there's the music, and there's all these elements you have no control over at all.
Right.
So, but I have watched the rough cut of 3, and I'll tell you that it really the story itself about this incredible conflict in this one person really translates very well to film. So I think the screenplay really nailed it, and I'm very excited about the screenplay for House. It's more, like I said, more of a genre film.
Right.
I think it's going to do extremely well as a film.
Great. Now, when should we look for 3? It's in post-production right now.
Yeah,
so it'll be coming
January,
out.
February, March 2007.
Great.
Ultimately, that's Fox.
Now, is
Fox
it going to have a national release, or is it going
it'll be
to
a limited release?
Limited release. Okay, wonderful.
Probably 300 screens, 300 to 800 screens.
Yeah, great. Well, that'll be really exciting. That'll be really exciting for you. What a neat, just kind of that next step, that kind of next segue. But I would think that to see a book sort of being kind of morph into the film version of it would be really exciting.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm really excited about continuing to develop films, and I actually write stories now that I think would adapt well to film, which is a unique kind of story. So I really focus on the kind of plots that that adapt well to film.
Right.
I'd like to see a long string of movies ultimately over the next 10 years come out.
And that would be great. I mean, I think that, again, I think what the niche that you've tapped into, and the fact that, it's a really crossover genre into the secular market. I mean, when you say Ted Dekker, Christian or non-Christian are aware of the book, aware of the name, if not so much the titles. And I think it's been an exciting thing to watch, sort of a Christian perspective on a genre that has been so, I guess, dominated by, the whole supernatural kind of things has been so dominated by, with no hope or redemption. The messages are, there's so many horror films, there's so many supernatural, I mean, there's so much on the television right now. You've got Medium and, I don't know, just so many shows that really deal with the supernatural, but they never deal with the answers. They never deal, the people have no hope, it stays in the dark. It stays in the dark, and I think what you present...
And actually, I don't like to characterize myself. One reason why I've been quite successful in this arena is because I don't really characterize myself as uniquely Christian. I write stories that are very redemptive. Of course, I myself am a follower of Christ, but I don't like any of my writing being put in this box called Christianity. This is Christian fiction. In fact, actually, I don't like that term at all. And from the very beginning, I said, don't call me a Christian fiction writer.
Well, it will marginalize you. It puts, there's just like anything, there's a stereotype that goes with that. The fact is that you've been given this phenomenal talent, and the fact that your faith has a huge role in how that translates into what you write is, that's kind of how it kind of rolls out. And that's,
if you go on a search for the truth in any authentic way, ultimately you will find the light. And it will dispel darkness, and millions of people have taken that journey with me in various stories, and ultimately my stories speak for themselves. And it's really too bad that oftentimes you're put in this box called Christian fiction. Well, moving on to films now, I certainly don't want to be thought of as someone who makes Christian movies, because what does that mean? I mean, what's a Christian movie?
It means low budget and low quality.
It means low budget and low quality, and that's something that we'll make movies. We'll make movies about really cool stories. Really, really killer stories that have something to say. And that ask the right questions, and that give you something to think about.
Well, and that's kind of sort of the premise of our, of Deeper Calling, of our, the company that we put out in deeperShopping. It's really the story behind the story. The fact that your faith plays that huge role. It's how your faith intersects with your creativity, and how everyone can be a part of that, and how it translates to the audience. It's not necessarily about putting it in the box. We don't want to be in the box. That's not what we're all about either. You really want to reach out to everyone. This is your story, and this is how it relates to them, and you are gifted in fiction and moving on to video and film, and it's terrific. And it's such a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
To meet you and to sit here and discuss
And
your books
here's
and
the
your
comic.
projects.
I also have comic books, you see.
Great. Now, this
comic
is what the
books.
street team's going to take out.
Right.
This is,
See,
what a great promotional tool.
I don't know if that's
wonderful.
too shiny to see, but
We can catch that on there.
Yeah, this is just the first few chapters of Saint. You know,
Okay.
and it ends in a cliffhanger. It's like, you
kind of
want
the
more,
graphic.
go buy the novel kind of thing.
Great.
Kind of something pretty cool that the publisher did.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And this is out in September. Saint is out in September 2006, and we're going to be looking for 3 to hit theaters, limited theaters. Hopefully we'll get the trailer up on our site. And thank you so much. Thank you very much, and that's it.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.